Okay, today we're going to talk about retrofitting P3 facelift mirrors onto your P2 Volvo. I retrofit these P3 S60 mirrors onto my P2 bases. I also added a Bliss camera from the P3 mirrors, and I added these cool sequential turn indicators. Ba-bam. And they fold. So let's get into it. Okay, so what we've got here is actually a P3 base from the mirrors that I retrofit onto my car, and then the P2 parts that I took off of my car. Same principle apply. All this stuff is compatible with one another, so you'll get the correct information. The harness we're working with here was a P2 harness, so I did have to do a little modification. The only differences between the P3 harness and the P2 harness, at least as far as the electric folding mirrors go, which is what makes these compatible, because it's the same attachment points, same motor for P2 and P3. At least for facelift, the only differences between the two harnesses for P2 and P3 are the fold pins. So for P2, the blue fold pin goes to pin 7 on here. These are numbered 1 through 7, 8 through 16. So blue fold pin gets tagged into pin 7, which is also a mirror motor lead. For P3, the passenger side blue fold pin gets tagged into pin 15, in addition to another pin. The driver side left side for the United States, the blue fold line goes to pin 14 by itself, and then the gray fold line gets tagged into pin 15. For whatever reason, they're reversed. So we're gonna get into this. We're gonna fold or thread these down through the base, put our grommets on, assemble everything, and then we are going to Tessa tape this up all nice. So let's get this harness down through here. Sometimes I do half the pins at a time. Makes it go through a little easier. Slide these babies down through. There we go. Now this grommet, just like moisture barrier grommet, is going to go into this hole right here. So it's going to go on like this. We're going to put these pins through here. Again, we're going to throw the larger boys through first. Just be easy. These are easy to bend. The reason I did it this way, actually, untaping the entire harness, depinning it, depinning that connector and pulling it through and swapping the harnesses, is because I wanted to have to solder slightly less things. You still have to do, clip the Bliss harness off of the black ground wires if you do it this way, resolder it back on when you're done, and then you have to, swap those two fold lines. It probably would be less work to just snip off what you need from your new harness and just tag it into your existing harness. Like for what I was doing, really the only two differences was I was adding a Bliss harness, which just tags into the ground wires that are existing, and then I was adding the new style turn indicator connector, which I could have just snipped off and soldered on. But I felt like this would be better for my application. So here we go. Got these through that grommet. We're also going to add on the original P3 grommet that presumably goes into the door. I don't have a P3, so I don't know. Throw these pins through here. And once we get through here, we'll start assembling. All right, so I'm doing a big group of pins first, then a little group of pins. Just gonna pop all those through there. Great. So all of my pins are through both of the grommets. Just gonna slide these grommets down here. I can pull my harness down. So here's how it's gonna be. Here's our mirror heat. Here's our fold motor. We're just gonna pop this in here right now. The fold connector that goes in there. And then we're gonna start assembling everything. The way that these three pieces go together is a little bit tricky to explain. I'm gonna try to do my best. But essentially, this is the base that goes on here. We're gonna thread this stuff through it. pop it on here. This has to hook in underneath of it while it seats into this. And then this also needs to pop onto this. So I'm going to do my best to show you how this little dance works. While you're doing that, you have to throw these 2 screws through the fold motor to the other side. So I'm going to do my best to get it sort of set up here, and then I'll show you how to do that. So since this is the driver's side motor, this is how it'd be oriented on the car. Here's where the mirror glass would be. So I'm going to toss this right down here so it's easy to see. For illustration, the 2 screws go through these 2 holes, here and here, but we can't put them in yet because we need to get that piece underneath. And it sort of has to all come together at once. So pop these out. We can sort of wiggle this up a tiny bit, get this piece underneath, and you'll kind of figure it out. It just kind of like nests in there. Like there's, see right here, there's an indexing pin that keeps this moving with this motor. Same thing on this side. It kind of just indexes itself. Now with this piece has several attachment points for this. There are 2 tabs here and here that go on here and here. I think for P3 there's just 1 big tab, but it's like the same general design. These 2 things on P2 mirrors snap down past these 2 tabs here. They go click, and you kind of have to push them out to get it off. But since we're trying to put it on, we're gonna do that. So we're gonna, since we have this piece in its correct position already, we're gonna wiggle this up a little bit. This goes, kind of a tricky thing, you also have to have your wiring go in here because it's going to go, let's push this wiring down a little bit. Wiring is eventually going to go in here. Actually, let's do this. We oriented this weird. We're going to pull this wiring through here. All right. Unmess up this harness here. Got our mirror heat and everything. Okay. Snug this back up. This bit is going to go down through here. And it will kind of nestle in right in there. Mirror heat is going to be out like this. So what we need to do is have this sort of nestled in this channel so that this can be in the proper position to plug into the mirror motor, all that stuff. But then it also needs to go through and into here. So this kind of all goes in there. As long as it's in here, we're good. So we can just kind of shove it to the side here and look closely at how this goes on. So this kind of, like I said, it slides on, and there's these 2 pins right here. I think you can see them. That kind of index in there as it's sliding back and forth. So we're just going to sort of get that close to where it's just seated in the proper position, but it's not clicked all the way down. And then we have to do sort of a dance where as that's seated in the proper position, we wiggle this down and get this thing mated to the mirror where it's supposed to go. So it's kind of like almost there. We're just kind of holding it so it's all almost put together. This thing is seating down underneath here. So this is ready to pop together, but it's not yet popped together because we need to then, after we're in this almost state, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle this main bracket until it's all the way down where it needs to go. And this may take some wiggling to get everything the way it needs to be. Because again, you have these tabs on this bottom bracket that sort of index it against this main bracket. So, okay, we've got it all down. We're good. These screw holes are available to us. So take one of these screws, drop it in the back hole. Good. Now we can screw that in. That is going to be a T20. So I'm gonna grab my T20 here. Screw that one in because it's good. So in the back, I can show that. There's the screw in the back. Lighting is not the best here, but you get the idea. So we're going to do the back screw all the way home. Not crazy tight, but you know, hand tight plus. It just needs to hang on to the fold motor. It's not going to be doing too much. Okay, now the other screw, since this is still kind of on, but not quite, it still needs to pop this way to be totally on, we can move it a bit. You know, we have some play. So we're going to use that play gently. Oh, and also make sure your harness is still in that hole where it needs to be. It's free to move about. You don't want to pinch it in between this piece and the main piece. So now that we have this little bit of play here, we're going to see if I can turn on a light. Yeah, let me grab a light. All right, got a light. So, second screw. We have some play here. There is the second screw hole. It's kind of hard to show, but it's right here. So we're just gonna pull this just enough because we have some play here. We're gonna wiggle it so we can drop that screw where it needs to go. It'll slide in. Now, we can use this T20 at an angle. I recommend using one with a thin shank. You can push a little bit more, wiggle this just a bit, and we can get that screw to pop in where it needs to go. So we're using this at kind of an angle. See, we got popped past this second lip here. It protrudes a little bit. Now it's down where it needs to go, so we're not quite worried about like holding this as much because the screw's already past the danger point where it would get really pinched and be hard to move. So we can screw this in all the way. In this case, where it's just not moving like this, it's because this bracket isn't seated all the way down. So we can just sort of pop that down a little more, and now our screw will go in. Or it won't. Okay, so we move this back a little bit, a little more room to screw directly down on. Sometimes you just need to put a little bit of oomph on the screw. So here we go. Doing it at an angle like this isn't super great, but since it's a Torx, it'll let you do it, which is nice. It's got bite even at this angle. Oh, I just realized you couldn't see that. Okay, yeah, it's got bite even at this angle. Because if we were going straight in, it'd be like directly this way, but we're not. We're going at an angle. So there we go. That screw is tight. You know, hand tight plus. This screw is like hand tight plus. We're good. Okay, so now we can pop the bottom part onto this and then bring them both home. So here's a good look at this. This needs to pop into here. And then there's, oh, darn. Okay, so on the back here, this bracket needs to go pop up into it. I don't know if I have enough flex to do that right now. I kind of feel like I don't. So we're gonna have to take the screws back off, pop this up a little bit, pop that bracket where it needs to go so it can pop fully in, and then we'll redo this. So be right back. All right, taking screws out. These are some of the pitfalls that can happen when assembling these mirrors. So one screw out. Again, we have a good amount of flex here, so we can start removing this screw. Just use a little bit of the flex we have to get a little bit of a better angle on it. All right, there we go. That screw is out. We just need to move this back a little bit to get it flexed enough so the screw can actually come out. Okay, so there it is, flex enough that it's out. We can lift this screw out of here, kind of wiggling. There we go. That screw's done. Now we can pop this out enough that this will pop into its correct housing place. So it needs to go inside there. It pops to this surface and then goes inside there. So, okay, that's correct now. Now we can put this back down. Kind of partially pop that on. Move this enough so this main bracket will seat back down tight. And then put our 2 screws back in. Okay, this one. Ta-da! And then a little bit of English on this. Not too much. This screw will pop in. There we go. So you can actually pop this out and off. We don't want to do that. It makes it tricky to get back on and in properly. So I'm actually going to have to pop this back up to reassemble this correctly. Like I said, it is a little tricky. So from this awkward position, get both screws out, move this up a bit, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Pop this on here. Just so these tabs are down where they want to be. There we go. So this is all kind of at the right angle together. I'm gonna actually pop this apart and do it again. Okay, found my problem. There's also a tab that indexes into this. So my problem is that that is too far forward like this. So I can push this a little bit so it's in line again. It was jerked up like this. So now we're in line again. This is the way this is supposed to be. So that's like that. These tabs are located in where they're supposed to be. Now we can push this down. And you see this kind of like all goes together, sort of like a Russian nesting doll. When you push this down, this draws in a little bit as well. So there we go, we're in successfully. Screw back here, a little bit of scooch, just enough to pop it in. You notice this is popping up again, but that's okay. Just gonna pop this screw in there, and then we can pop it down in where it needs to go. That indexes back into there. These 2 tabs are still in their happy place. Push this down, T20 to get this down in. We're doing the back screw. This is significantly more difficult to do on camera than off. Making sure we still have clearance for our harness here. There we go. That's good. Looks like I've stripped this screw a little bit from taking it in and out so much, but just be gentle with them. They don't need to be crazy tight, just tight enough. So now we're gonna use a little bit of a scooch that we have for this and get the other screw in. There we go. There it goes. Down and where it goes. Perfect. All right, again, just hand tight plus is good enough. Okay, because they seat, or they rather bite in the back of this, I believe, which is like glass fiber plastic. It's pretty beefy. That's good stuff. Okay, so 2 things that we're gonna watch are these tabs right here. As this snugs up and snugs up in the rear here, like that, then we can push this on to the housing. These tabs need to be indexed in here. Those will slide in like that. And then the watch back here as these 2 pop. So these are going to pop down below the tabs on the main bracket. So we're just going to push this. There they go. So this mirror is ready for all the stuff that goes into it. So first, we're going to do the mirror motor. Make sure this harness nestles down in here the way it's supposed to go. Usually you'll have a bend that's reminiscent of the way it was, which is great. So there's one T10 screw that goes in the middle of this mirror motor for late P2s and P3s. This mirror motor also has a functional and a nice little top little message there, little inscription. That's great. So we're going to put that towards the top of the mirror. Remember, this is driver mirror, so this is the top. And everything is just mirrored for the passenger side. Point this towards the top, plug it in. It's difficult to plug in when it's not in, or when it's already in, it's difficult to plug in. So this is an index connector. It can only go in one way, so we're going to plug it in. There we go. And we're going to pop it in here. It can only go in one way, so there's 3 retaining tabs and then a center pole that it goes on. There we go. Sometimes you'll get a more satisfying clunk than others. So here we go. Pin there. I'm just getting that T10 down in there. And again, just hand tight plus, nothing too crazy. Or I guess I should say finger tight plus, just not too tight. Just tight as it seems like it needs to be. Let's see if this is good in there. Yep, that's good. All right, that's all good in there. This is our puddle light that goes down through this hole here. So we're gonna pop this down through. This is for the mirrors, that stays out. This is our turn signal that goes out this hole. Turn signals normally blue wire, puddle lights normally purple black wire, or blue black purple black, but it can presumably change depending on what car you have. Anyway, that's out there. Puddle lights down here. We'll do puddle light first. Get our little puddle light assembly here. Figure out how this wants to sit. It's going to be in like that. So this is going to be in there. Just thread him in there and just pops in. This is our temp sensor right here. This goes just right down in this little hole right here. Perfect. Pops in there. Very nice and easy. And it pokes through there. Now we're going to do our turn signal out through here. Just goes right in there. Nice and easy. And then this goes down into here. P3 is very similar for this, even the facelift ones. So you just kind of index that down there as far as it goes, and then you push here, and I've not got it indexed properly. You can sort of look, there's a little claw here that goes on either side of a thing that's down in there. So we've got it down there as far as it'll go. Now we can push down and pop it. There's the way it's supposed to go. You can pull this harness down. You can sort of Tessa tape this. I usually start down here and go up, and then do like up to like yay, and you can pull through and Tessa tape up to, I usually do to about here, and that's nice. We can put this connector back on. These just slide back in, these pins, and click, and then these fold down. Oh, to depin this, you open these, and then the top here, or the row that doesn't have a pin in it on both rows, just slide a little paper clip, like an unbent paper clip down in there, and it'll release the pins. You can pull them out one at a time. What else? Mirror here. So these babies, they're slightly bent. They go in like this, so that they're bending into the circle, not away from. So there we go. We're gonna take this mirror, connect it to the mirror heater leads. If you've taken these off, sometimes they get a little loose. You might need to tighten them. And here we go. Doesn't really matter which direction we use, but I'm just going to do them this way so that it doesn't interfere with these white indexing tabs. So then we're going to slot these two tabs into these two slots right here. And you can kind of watch them go in, and then you simply pop this down onto the mirror motor. That's it, we're done. For mirror cap, take our mirror cap, turn off this light, don't need it anymore. There's a tab here that indexes, and a tab here that indexes. So we just kind of, this is for P2 and early P3. The facelift P3s have a slightly different mirror cap design. I'll show you that in a sec. It is this indexes, it like sort of slides on and then clicks down in, but these they got to sit down onto the mirror. Okay, you can tell they're ready, and then it'll pop in and on. You can sometimes feel like you're going a little too hard, but there we go. Now that's fully assembled. We can also do the, if we had a Bliss camera to go here, you would tie the Bliss harness in with, no, those are temperature leads. Here we go, in with the ground leads. There's generally like a big bundle of them here. You would tie the Bliss harness in with the ground leads, and then it is all kind of self-contained. Bliss harness comes off like right around here and goes back this way. There's a little lead for it that goes this way, that goes to the heater for the lens. There's a capacitor that slots in here and the connector that goes here, and then the plug for the Bliss camera comes up over it. These two bosses, you can just with a little oil on the screw, if your mirror, you're retrofitting a Bliss camera and your mirror didn't come with one, these are not threaded, but just a little bit of oil on the screw that goes there will thread it. Camera goes here. Bliss harness, if you retrofitted it, plugs into camera. Then Bliss harness plugs into the heater for the lens, which also is attached to the end of the Bliss camera. And then after you're done with your Bliss camera, here we go. We're just going to pop this on. This pops on this end first, and then these two things, tabs, just pop on. So there we go. There's a fully assembled late P2, early P3 mirror. And this sort of applies to most P2 and P3 mirrors. Most of this stuff is really similar, if not exactly the same. All right, I hope this was helpful.